Welcome to Courageous Conversations with Heman, where we unpack the ideas, the stories, and the voices shaping our world today. Today, we are stepping into a conversation that's bold, urgent, and long overdue. How Indian cinema grapples with the caste and how it can become a force for change. Our guest today is the Neeraj Bunkar. He is a PhD scholar at the Nottingham Trent University, an Ambedkar thinker and a driving force behind the Dalit and Adivasi Film Festival or the DAF. With his research focused on the Rajasthan-based Hindi films and a career rooted in the social work, Neeraj is redefining how we can see caste and Dalit identity on screen. In this episode, we will dive into his journey from activism to academia and explore why Rajasthan's cinema offers a unique window into the India's caste dynamics. We will talk about the DAVE, which is his platform for marginalized filmmakers and which unpacks his critiques. But we will also unpack his critiques in the Indian Express about the censored films like Pule and the Dhadak 2. Whether you love movies, care about the social work, social justice, or just want to hear a fresh perspective, this is for you. So buckle up for a discussion that's as eye-opening as it is inspiring. Neeraj, welcome to the show. Neeraj, honestly, it is a great to have you on this chat, and I am really excited to dive into your research and your work on the cast and Indian cinema, and would like to hear more about it. First off, can you please share a bit about how you got into studying caste through cinema? Was there a moment that really sparked this interest for you? And since you have got an MA in the social work with a specialization in the Dalit and tribal studies, how has that background influenced the way you approach your research?
Yeah, first of all, thank you, Heman, for inviting me, and it's been an honor to be here and to speaking on this particular very crucial topic of our time. And as you ask about how I got into it, this research about cinema and the Dalit representation, so I want to go back to my childhood memories that. As a child, I always, that being a Dalit person and raised in Dalit household, and that too in a village uh, without a TV. So cinema was always, that a rare and magical experience, and it felt like it's something beyond our imagination, and we always wanted to uh, become part of that visual magical experience. So I vividly recall that how the sneaking glimpses of very popular Hindu epics like Ramayana and Mahabharata at an upper caste neighbor's home, because in our village that time only one person was having the TV, and that was also from a upper caste family. So although we were not allowed to sit inside his that room and his household, but relegated to sitting near that by the gates where the slippers are placed. And that time I didn't feel it like a humiliation, because I was just a child and I was only that fascinated for the cinema, and then that the experiences to watch this Ramayana and this magical things on the TV screen. So I didn't feel like that, but that portal of mesmerizing world of witnessing the world which was not part of our daily lives but beyond that. And because of that sort of experience, that formative experiences of my life, and later I remember that there was one Pasmanda Muslim neighbor who bought a TV, and he actually that always used to play very action dramas featuring, mostly featuring heroes like Mithun Chakravarti and Sunny Deol and sometimes Govinda, so who are fighting for corruption and injustices, and that struggling to meet the daily means, and always that stood behind the that right, and always like that. So these were the themes that were that playing in all those films, and I was very much fascinated by all those genre of particular genre of films. So as a poor child, I connected deeply with these narratives of struggle and triumph. And though I didn't question why my Dalit reality was absent from the screen, because I was not very much aware of my own caste reality, or I would say that my own positionality in the society as a Dalit. So I didn't question why a particular the section of the society is portrayed in a very empowering way, and then the other common masses is portrayed in very the submissive and very stereotypical manner. I didn't that have that sort of understanding to differentiate between two worlds in a particular cinema of that particular time. So, but then that I enrolled in a boarding school 60 kilometer away from my village, and that is where I actually got a got an opportunity to watch many films, because they were that allowing us to watch films on every weekend, every Sunday. So that became a sort of a ritual, and I began jotting down everything, all my observation after watching films in my diary. And so, and that time I also had a friend, and his family used to live in a Mumbai, which is known for the film city as well, and the city of joy and the city of dreams. So my curiosity always with stories of the film industries, that was very much part of that experiences in the boarding school, where I used to share my experiences and my that very exciting questions to my friend whenever he used to go to that vacations in Mumbai, and when he used to come back. So I used to ask him a lot of questions that about how film stars lives there. Did you ever seen anybody there? And those many questions were related to cinema and film industry. But and that is where I actually that first time I went to cinema hall, and that is where I experienced the giant and magnificent screen, and then the experience and the booming sound, and it was magical in all sense. And so, but still, that was all whatever I was consuming since childhood. It was only for the mostly for the entertainment purpose. I was not that investigating deeply into the the underlying meanings of the screen images, uh, until it was until I think the my undergraduate studies, which I did from University of Delhi, where I actually took a course. Although I enrolled in a political science honors, but I took a course on Indian cinema, society, and nationalism. It was basically an optional course that we had to take, and I took this as an optional subject, where uh, I began analyzing films as a text, reflecting that reflecting the state ideologies, how state that function and plays a vital role in defining the themes of the cinema and in the films at that time, during the partition and after partition period. So, but actually I started realizing the socio-political positioning of the filmmaker when I actually enrolled in Tata Institute of Social Sciences for my master course in Mumbai. There I deepened this perspective, and that time also I remember watching film Kalas by Paranjit, a Dalit filmmaker from Tamil Nadu. So, and also that time the biggest thing happened is that Neeraj Gaiwan, who made Masan, uh, he actually revealed his caste identity, his Dalit identity. So I revisited his film Masan again after this revelation, and this actually made a sense that why he actually chose to depict a struggle of a Dalit community in a bigger screen. So these are the the questions, and these are the experiences of watching films from childhood, prompt me to ask certain questions around the representation, the politics of representation. Is like, why are there so only the few filmmakers from the Dalit communities, despite that having a population of over more than, I think, 200 millions in India. And why are Dalits stereotyped on screen in a particular way? So this all this ignited my PhD research. So in my master days in this, I always used to discuss about cinema with my peers, and I decided only that time that if ever I will that go for PhD, I will only do PhD on this particular topic of representation and Dalit portrayal in the cinematic space. So that is where I actually decided to be part of this academic world by choosing this particular project as part of my PhD thesis.
That is so, I mean, inspiring, Neeraj. And I love the fact that your journey ties to your work. Speaking of which, I have been reading your articles on Forward Place and other platforms. They are fascinating, believe me. But I have to mention you interviewed Bhavar Megwanshi. I have to mention this, who I was lucky to meet last year in Nepal at the World Social Forum, as I mentioned earlier. Uh, uh, I must say he is such an inspiring man. I would love to know that how did your conversation with him influence your perspective on the caste issue? And tying that to your PhD, you focus on the caste and Dalit identity in Rajasthan-based Hindi cinema. What's special about Rajasthan cinema that gives us unique insights into the caste dynamics? Maybe share a film that really stood out to you.
Yeah, definitely. I'm glad that you asked this question about the that influence of Bhavar Megwansi on my formative years, basically of the understanding the caste dynamics in Rajasthan and in India in general. So he's like actually part of my family, and he's my uncle. So growing up, that being in that environment where we used to have so many guests from the different social sectors, like so many social activists used to come and to investigate and to visit different villages where these atrocities took place, and they used to that write reports on it and all. So he was also very that fighting force, basically a very uh, a, a vital voice in our area. Whatever is happening with the Dalits, he used to be there, and he's always stood by them, and he raised their voices on the national and international platforms wherever he used to go. So I remember like listening him while he used to talk to so many that peoples from different universities, scholars, and also the activists from different parts of India. So I remember how that his understanding was deeply rooted in the grounds. Like he is not academician, but he know the realities, and he experienced his all this that humiliating experience since his childhood. So he know how to articulate, and he is a author also. So he has written a book which you already has read. It is Why I Could Not Be Hindu. So it is about his life experiences, that how being the part of that bigger the Hindu right wing organization, and how he has eliminated from that, and he disillusioned by that organization, and then how he started his own journey by as an activist. And then that's why I wrote a that interview, and I interview in that interview I actually define his journey from a that a sort of a pro Hindu man, from a journey from pro Hindu man to a that Ambedkarite, a radical Hindu to a radical not radical, but a very that empowering Ambedkarite. So in Rajasthan, Ambedkarite movement is not that strong that time. Actually, that was not very strong, and because of the legacy that we had was mostly about this the religion was very much part of our lives, and unlike Maharashtra and other states where all these social reforms were also born. So, but in Rajasthan that was not the case. So he, I think, is one of the biggest force behind that uh, making Ambedkarite movement as a that vital. platform for a Dalit community to raise their voice. And so, in a way, that he has defined this entire political movement from his own reading and from his own experiences. And as you ask about that, how Rajasthan, I chose Rajasthan as my PhD thesis, particularly that how films set against the backdrop of Rajasthan, offered a unique sort of a perspective, a lens in defining the caste identity and the narratives around the region. So that Rajasthan based Hindi cinema is a very that rich in a way. If you trace the history of Rajasthan based Hindi cinema, I think the first film was 19 625, I think, Light of Asia by Franz Austin. So he shot that film in Rajasthan, but it doesn't deal with the theme of Rajasthan's culture and society, but it used the backdrop, only the backdrop. And then the Satyajit Ray's film Sonar Killa. So he actually talk about the Sonar Killa, means the fort, the golden fort of Rajasthan, and where he shoot entire film in Rajasthan. And when somebody asked him why you particularly chose this location, so for him it was a landscape which appeal to the wider audience, a global audience, to frame Rajasthan as a national identity. That a national identity and national landscape basically. But in my research, I realized that although few people are doing research on Dalit representation in cinema in general, in Hindi cinema in general, but particularly Rajasthan has not been explored from the Dalit perspective, from the Ambedkarite perspective. So I decided to take this as a project for my PhD thesis. So because we know that there are so many films, almost more than 80 films that are made against the backdrop of Rajasthan and uses the mise scenes and then the landscape of Rajasthan. So, but what I realized through my research, that all these narratives often that romanticizes the feudal traditions, the royal kingdoms, the palaces, and in that process they always sideline the marginalized voices, the Dalit voices, the representation of Dalits issues. So that is the big gap that I found, and I think that this must be explored in a very that bigger academic manner. As I also remember that how a very film scholar, he Mark Farrow, he notes that film is a valuable not only because of what it reveals, but also because of socio historical approach that it justifies. So this is very important. That I think that the code that he encapsulate in his theories, that how film is not only that we do not see and consider film as just a text and entertainment sort of a thing, but also it is important because it reveals so many things. The paratext, that we only see film as a film, but there are so many things surrounding it. Why there is particular sort of theme has been chosen for that film, and what was the that going on that time in the Indian politics, the surrounding in the society. So in that case, although there were so many issues around Dalit subjectivity and Dalit community, but only this Rajput, the dynasty politics and this royal kingdom, their lineage and their war and their fight over the property, these are the things only that got space in the cinematic in the realm. So that actually pushed me to research on it. And also, if I have to give example of two film like Padmavat and there is a Gulal. So these are the two films I can remember at this point, that how they have romanticized Rajasthan in a manner. And also, like as I talk about my uncle Bhavan Megwansi, he in a podcast he also talk about this that these phrases which people use in their mundane life. They like hukum, khamagani. These are the very feudal in nature, which plays people in a very submissive place. So, so these films always glorify Rajput valor and upper caste heritage, and also not only glorify, but they also reinforce this caste hierarchy, and in reinforcing, they also erase Dalit and Adivasi realities. And even though they have get some sort of a screen time in all these films which surrounded Rajput culture and their valor, they always been portrayed at the periphery of the entire narrative. So they are not part of the center of this entire story and entire narrative. So these are the things that actually sanitize the entire broader politics of the state, and which also has been translated in the broader Hindi cinema. And I think there is a huge need to reflect on it, and also there is huge need to for a filmmaker from the Dalit community and from the anti-caste filmmaker who believe in eradicating the caste system. They need to make more films on Rajasthan about Dalits and voicing and empowering their characters and their narrative. There is only, I think, one web series recently, more recently, called The Hard by Rima Kagti and Joya Akhtar, I think. So this web series actually is very empowering in many ways. It depicts a person, a woman from Dalit community who is in sub inspector, and she is a fearless woman. She doesn't shy away from voicing out her opinion and all. So in that case, it is very important to have these sort of narratives in the larger cinematic framework. And again, to have all this conversation in films like these, like web series like The Heart, we need to have more diversified team. This could only become possible because of the diversified team they had in their team, like while making the Heart. So yeah, that is the one thing, and I think I hope answer your question.
Yeah, I must say that this is such a powerful observation, Neeraj, and it really shows why your work matters. Now, let's turn our attention and talk about the Dalit and Adivasi Film Festival for the days. Which is, this incredible online platform showcasing films by Dalit and Adivasi filmmakers, right? As organizer, what's been the most rewarding part of this? And I know it's not all smooth sailing. What's been the challenging that you have faced?
Yeah, I think the DAF Dalit and Adivasi Film Festival was such an very important festival, not for only for me, but also for many other indie voices, indie filmmakers, which provided, basically this platform provided them to showcase their work. So in that way, I feel like as an organizer, it was my sort of duty and responsibility, and to bring all these voices which had not been given spaces on in all those mainstream, that very elite platforms and festivals. So this was the main aim behind curating this festival as well. So last year we had five films from only from Dalit communities, and that time we showcase documentaries and films that talk about the Ambedkar's legacy, and then the assertion of the Dalit community. So what is, you can clearly find the difference between the upper caste narrative and upper caste filmmakers film, and then the films by the Dalit community or the anti-caste filmmakers. So there is always a empowering nature in the films by the Dalit filmmaker. They always try to showcase the assertive side. Not only try, but they only show the the changing attitude of the Dalit community. But the other side, the upper caste filmmaker always try to place Dalits as at the margin, as a submissive, underconfident, loud, meek, and all this. They have proper popular template to fit Dalits in particular template. So So this was the very new experience for me, being an organizer of, that collaborating with filmmakers from the Dalit community and Adivasi community for this new edition called DAF. In this festival, I try to, that invite as many as filmmaker from the Adivasi and Dalit community, and also my focus was to invite more women filmmaker from these community, and also from all regions across India, like from all the states. So I invited from the Arunachal Pradesh, from Gujarat, from Maharashtra, from Tamil Nadu, from Odisha, from Jharkhand. So this was, and from Delhi as well. So these were the films, the filmmakers I have invited. I watched all these films. The challenge was basically to, find all these filmmakers, because uh, we have only few filmmakers in this industry, and also the indie filmmakers, they are, although there are many, but they are not in a very organized spaces. So to find them, it's a big challenge, but somehow I could manage, and I could contact few people, and through them I could, invite them, and then I actually asked them to send me their films, and I watch all the films, and then I selected few films which that suits to the motives and the objective and aim of the festival. The particular film, the documentary, very which was very long, 2 hours, more than 2 hours, on JNU politics, basically student politics. It was very fascinating documentary, showcase which documents the resilience that the Dalit students, the Bahujan students, that they are making this space, these dominated elite spaces, as their own, like democratizing those spaces. So through that documentary, we can witness how this politics of students is reshaping by the that emergence of the Dalit students or the Bahujan students. And and if I talk about the reward, so reward is what basically, that witnessing so many, that different filmmakers from different parts of India, and how the audience actually engage with stories that resonate directly with their lived experiences, and seeing filmmakers and their recognition, and how, that all the filmmakers also, that wrote back to me via email that thank you for providing this platform. It actually helped us to, that collaborate with other filmmaker as well, from our own community, which they didn't know, actually they didn't know. So that was the very new experience for them as well. And yeah, I think that was the main thing. And the challenge is, it was not a very big challenge, because it was, we are organizing online only. So the funding was sufficient for organizing online festival. So but it was a tedious task, and very hectic for one person to organize the entire thing. And and also I was looking for, the particular filmmaker from particular community, so that was also a very big challenge. Yeah.
Yeah, I can see the passion for deaf, and it is clearly making the waves. Talking about your recent article in Indian Express, where you dive into a big issue around the caste, cinema, and creative freedom, especially with films like Phule and Dhak 2. How do these discussions shape the films you choose and present at DAVE 2025? And in your piece on Phule, you talked about how they have changed caste to Varna because of the censorship. Can you break down for our listeners why that change is such a big deal and how it messes with the film's message?
Actually, that to talk about, the current debates on the caste, and then the creative freedom, and also the censorship, it is very important, because that is this all these politics around all these issues that actually shape the film content. Because filmmaker do not want to, they invest money on something which might, the face backlash, and also, the outright ban of their film. So they always try to negotiate with the idea, and the ideology of the state. So but again, after this, in this regime and in this current scenario, this caste based censorship. This is caste based censorship. I called it a caste based censorship because they have particularly, like I was reading one book by Vishal Chauhan and Dalit representatives in popular Hindi cinema. So he also mentioned about the the censorship, the issue of censorship back in 1936 and 19 that 40 and 1956 as well. That time, what happened that the censor board only allowed films which were that making meaning for the state ideology and fitting into that own reformist template, basically, which were not challenging caste as an issue, but then making and naturalizing the issue, the caste issue. So similarly we can see in 2025 as well that how that these films which challenge the dominant upper caste framework, the narrative faces the bans are the that backlash. And the recent example you have mentioned, that the film Phule, which faced obstacle and the outright, also there is also ban of the film, outright ban of the film Santosh, which which is very crucial film because it talks about the state violence and the the position of the Dalit, the condition of the Dalit in the society. So, but meanwhile, that this creative freedom remain consistent, because as a filmmaker you must need to navigate commercial pressure and state ideology. So filmmaker always they find their ways to deal with all these pressures. And but as you also mentioned about the Varna, because the CBFC, the Central Board of Film Certification of India, has that instructed the filmmaker of the Fule to replace some words and change and some that some dialogues and some scenes as well. So the issue of replacing caste with Varna, it is such an very that what we call maintaining that hegemony, caste hegemony, through these screen images. Because Varna and caste has the two different meanings. So for instance, in the Fule, like how the CBSC has reported and make us to substitute caste with Varna, because Varna is rooted in Vedic text, in Vedas and in the Upanishada and all these ritual, scriptures, religious scriptures, where Varna has mentioned, which has actually caste hierarchy and that uh, divide the society into four Varnas. So the Varna system was based on the occupation of the person, and then it further divided into these castes and then the subcaste and then jatis. We call it jatis as well. But by using Varna, what film is trying to do is trying to that making a distance from the current scenario of the society, which based on the caste system, which is not based on the Varna system. So in that case, they are also that ignoring and rejecting the marginalized experiences of the Dalits in the society as well. Because if you talk about caste system, you have to talk about the issues faced by Dalits. You have to talk about the realities of the Dalits. So in that case, caste is to mention caste is very essential, and to remove caste with the Varna, it actually remove all the context, remove all the current realities and the scenario, because caste actually acknowledges the systemic inequalities and also centers the marginalized voices in a way that how there has been that facing the humiliation and discrimination based on the caste. So, and also like my research on films around the caste and Dalits, and also my article on Phule, this reveals that how these linguistic choices, this terminology actually shape audience perception as well, by either perpetuating social hierarchies or challenging them. So in that case, they are not challenging by replacing caste with Varna. They are trying to fixate and trying to that reinforce trying to maintain, trying to naturalize the entire system, unequal system. So yeah, I think culturally prioritizing caste in narrative fosters accountability and urging society to confront structural inequalities rather than hiding behind the euphemism and all. So I think that is very important, and we must fight for at least acknowledgement of this. And also in the 2 days back, I think yesterday or day before yesterday, government of India announced caste census, that they will be conducting caste census in India. So that is crucial step, because the all the opposition and all the activists from the Dalit and minority Dalit and Ambedkarite community, they were asking, they were demanding for the caste census, because if you know that there is some problem in the society, for that you first, to cure that problem, to deal with that problem, first you need to acknowledge, to recognize. So the caste census is kind of a, like recognizing that problem, that we have that problem in our society, and then hence we need to cure that. So I think, yeah, that is a most important question of
Yeah,
creating freedom. Yeah.
yeah, of course. I mean, this is what that really puts the things in perspective. Now, for young people listening who are inspired by your work and want to make a difference, like you, through the academia or the cinema, what advice would you give to them, and any lessons you have learned along the way that you might think light their path?
I think for all the young uh, activists, or the academics, or the that filmmakers, aspiring filmmakers, I would actually first advise them to be rooted in your own community stories. First, try to learn your own history. Try to read as much as you can on the anti-caste, that history, anti-caste politics. Try, that exploring these underexplored areas. Try to watch as many as film you can watch surrounding this caste, and that Dalit representation, like Paranjit is such a big example in our anti-caste film circuit. His film Kala, Madras, Kabali, and you can Thanglan, you can watch them. And also Nagraj, Manjulesh, Serat, Fenry, and recently John, and Neeraj Gaiwan's Masan, Gilipuchi. So, and Mari Selvaraj, Periram Perumal, Wali, and also Mamanna. So these are the films you can watch. Try to understand the society, the context, and the realities, and always try to. And as a filmmaker, if you want to make something, make a difference in the film circuit, in the cinematic realm, try to be more authentic. Try to, because that is authenticity is your greatest strength, I would say. Because if you are not authentic, your story is not gonna resonate with the audience who are from that community. So read as much as you can, and enhance. Because from my experience, what I have learned is, as my, you can see that how a student from social work, and then enroll like a student in a political science, and then now I'm enrolled in a film studies and researching films. So this interdisciplinary approach also plays a vital role, which makes you thinks beyond your own, that own discipline. So that is most important, I think, and these are the few lessons that I think I might want to give.
I mean, thank you for listing out the films for our audience. Also, that's I mean a golden suggestion. Whoever is starting out, Neeraj. Okay. One last thing. I'm curious about what's next for you. With your PhD wrapping up, what's a big dream or project you are excited to tackle? Maybe something new with a dev or a totally a different direction.
I think I would do something related to my academia, and also in the, that in the cinematic space only, because at the end everything is related in one or the another way. So post PhD, I'm also, that post in my post production. Sorry for the
No,
disturbance.
no,
Yeah,
no.
I'm in my post production of my short docu-fiction film, Letters from Nottinghamshire, which talk about a narrative which deals around, that exploring the issue of caste, and the change of the environment, and the loneliness, and the aged diaspora. diasporic person in England, how I feel about India and the realities of the Dalits in India and in UK as well. So I'm working on that film. I have already done with the shooting, and now I'm working on the post production. And additionally, I'm also developing few scripts and the few stories that I have, like from Rajasthan, from my own community, that I'm trying to, that translating. I'm thinking to translate them onto the screen. So basically, I'm working on all those folklores surrounding my community, the stories about my own family, the resilience that they have in their own community. So these are the things that I'm doing. But academically, I'm planning to adapt my PhD thesis into a book for a wider audience, though, so that it can reach to a common masses as well. Because thesis is for the academic purpose, but if you write a book in a more very that layman language, I think it would reach to more people. So that is the one thing I'm working, and I'm also exploring the intersections of caste with gender and labor in the context of the OTT based content, and especially in the AI AI era, basically, where everything is now generated by AI. So content of the films are also being generated by AI. So how it is affect getting that it gonna affect the representation of the Dalits and their stories. And additionally, I'm also plan to expand our DAF and its reach. And I'm also mentoring few aspiring Dalit and Adivasi academics to ensure their voices shape the future of Indian cinema studies as well. So these are the few projects that I'm working, and I think, yeah, that's all.
I mean, looks like new things are unfolding for you. Since you talked about the caste census, I would love to ask an additional question about that. And I have also read that you have written so powerfully about Ambedkar's vision for dismantling the caste. With as you said that with new caste census coming, some people argue it could help target policies for the marginalized groups, while others say it might encourage caste divisions. For an Ambedkar lens, what's your take? Is this census a step forwards or just stated? Is this census is a step towards the justice, or could it backfire to the government?
As a Dalit, I would say that being a Dalit, it is always that good to know the realities that we are part of, and the caste census is something which will not do injustice to anybody, but it will unfold the realities to uh, for betterment for us. So it is for the betterment of the country. It is for the betterment of the society, so that they will have that proper picture how society looks like, how the resources has been that divided between unequally between the different caste groups. So it will only help the state to frame the policies around the data that they will gonna have very soon. So it will definitely strengthen our movement, our strength, our voices. So it will not affect negatively. From my point of view, it will definitely gonna empower Dalit voices. As from an Ambedkar perspective, also I would say that because we do not, that we are not the one who have created the caste system. We are the sufferers of the caste system. We are not even, that we are the receiver of this entire negativity or the outcome negative outcomes of the caste system. So how can we are that strengthening it? How we are not strengthening the caste system, but we are our fight. If you look at the the long fight of the Ambedkarite movement against the caste system, you would see that how we are fighting since 1,000 years against this caste system to make the society that equal and equal space for everybody. Like the Sant Ravidas also envisioned, the society called Begumpura, that a society of without sorrows, where everybody can share meals together, can live together happily. So we have not created caste, so it's just not in our hand to that make any difference in the caste system. But also, if we jointly come together and think about it as an issue, it as a problem, that yes, this is the problem, and this is the data that we have, that this caste group has this much population, this caste group has this much population, and then we'll think about the resources, how many resources that this community owning, and how many resources that this community are owning. If there is some unequal distribution, then we can think about the equitable distribution, and this will gonna enrich the society at large, the nation at large, and particularly Dalits, I think, because they are at the most the bottom of this entire injustice system.
I was saying that I can totally agree on that. Someone on this podcast said that caste is very much ingrained in our society. Even if you convert to the Buddhism, or if you even die, the caste cannot even leave you. So this is, I mean, the perspective one of the scholars shared with me. With that, Neeraj, I mean, this has been such a fun and eye-opening chat with you. Thank you for bringing your brilliance and heart to this conversation. I mean, your work from dissecting caste in Rajasthan's films to building the deaf into global stage for Dalit and Adivasi voices. It's nothing but a short of revolutionary. And it is also a reminder that a cinema is not just an art, it is a mirror, a weapon, and a call to action. To everyone listening, we hope this episode has shifted how we see the films you watch and the stories you value. Cast is not just a subplot, it's a lens that shapes what we see and who gets heard. So take this with you that check out Neeraj's work on X at the rate Thinker Neeraj, and read his Indian Express pieces and save the date for Dave 2025. It's online and open for all. If this episode with Courageous Conversations with Heman Das sparked something in you, share it with someone. Let's keep pushing these stories forward. Once again, Neeraj, thank you for joining, and see you next time for more talks that matters.
Thank you, Amandas, for inviting me and to speak my heart with you. And actually, this was the first time that I was talking about in detail about my journey and about my research project. So thank you for giving this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you.